Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. Welcome back to Valorant News, and two massive games yesterday in the North American VCT we shall certainly talk about. But with Sentinels having a very bad start here to Stage 2, Dapr has been describing exactly why he thinks a bootcamp might not be particularly useful for this team, despite the fact that TSM and 100 Thieves have had an awful lot of success going down that route. Very much intrigued your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoy, subscribe if you're new as always, I would greatly appreciate it. Really up to the channel, thank you very much indeed for doing that. On the verge of 18,000 subs, love to see it. Let's just dive straight into things. Firstly, just from this real quick, because I know we've talked about Chamber a lot the last few days, but every single day there's more talk about him, just because he is the dominant kind of agent right now. We'll look at the numbers here in a second, the percentage of maps that he's getting picked on. But as a proto says from Ghost, Chamber shouldn't be allowed to teleport upwards of 5 times around, because obviously it's only 20 seconds, the kind of delay time. That's 5 get out of jail free cards to Jet's only 1. That's the thing, basically saying that, like, look, Jet, we thought she was pretty bad with 1 get out of jail free cards, but you know, Chamber gets to do it 5 times. Also, the thing is, the Vanity said, which I also think is kind of surprising, like, the teleport range is so far that he can basically go anywhere, which is really hard to keep up with and deal with, I think. So, like, it's certainly understandable why a lot of the pros are frustrated with the state of Chamber right now. And look at this, actually, right? It wasn't long ago we saw Jet being pretty much where Chamber is, but Jet right now is only at a 30% pick rate through the first couple of stages. Like, if you guys want to look all the way down to Neon and Cypher and stuff, you can, and Fade only at 22%, even though she might improve over time. But if we just look at Chamber right here, like, he's getting picked 89% of all the maps that have been played, 100% on Fracture, 100% on Haven and Icebox. Like, on Breeze it's only been played twice and it's 50-50 for now, but Chamber is pretty much coming out every single map, and no one else is even close. We've got Raze, Breach, of course, like Sage not far behind. Everything else is kind of, you know, in the 30% range, but Chamber is just by far and away the dominant agent in the North American side. So we'll see how this goes over time. I'm pretty sure I shared this after week 1, and it was a similar story, and I think even after week 1 it was like 84% of maps or something. Now it's up to almost 90, so just goes to show Chamber is rather good. Now we've got to talk about the EMEA region real quick. I thought this is kind of funny, the production value here of the EMEA side. That's at M3T, former Gambit, you know, Masters 3 champions. They were going to take this series victory against Na'Vi, and then for some reason everything just completely cuts out. But anyway, it does go game 3. Interesting affair, actually. I thought Na'Vi were pretty good in this series, to be honest. But yeah, M3 champions, they win the thing regardless. I mean, what is even going on right here? The PC just straight up shuts down. They win game 3. It was also this series, Focus versus Ascent. This is a really close fought series, actually, but Ascent eventually take it over Focus. It was a 2-1 game. Yuki with a really nice spray right here to kind of, well, keep their dreams alive early on in this game, and well, in the end, Ascend just about get the job done. So they move to 2-0. The groups currently look like this: Focus 0-2. Tough scenes for them, but yeah, certainly this Group A kind of working out as we might have expected it to. But G2, FPX, Ascend, and Fnatic, only 3 of those 4 teams can make it through, and Ascend and Fnatic are already putting, well, they're stamping authority on this game. Let's talk about Sentinels, right? So we're going to talk about the North American region here in just a couple of seconds, but you know, they've lost so far this stage to Luminosity Gaming, 2 Evil Geniuses as well, and they of course still have to play FaZe, still have to play OpTic, still have to play Cloud9. So more than likely, Sentinels are probably not going to qualify for the playoffs. Like, look, unless they improve drastically, doesn't really seem like they're going to, right? So there's been a lot of talk the last few days, as it is with Sentinels. Like, look, what should they do? How do they need to improve? Is it a player change they need to make? Is it kind of like a mentality change? Because they did qualify, right, which was impressive, but since they've qualified, like, it's kind of been back to normality, to be honest. Now, Dapr has a few words to say on this, because it's been a big talking point lately. Should these teams actually, or should the players actually get together? Like, how serious are they about it? We saw what Wardell said a few days ago about TSM, that he wasn't really willing to do their bootcamp in Texas, because he, well, seemingly didn't have that much faith in the success of the team. Might be a similar thing really here with Sentinels. Like, I don't know if they're really too confident in how good this lineup can be, to the point where they'd kind of prefer to stick with their comfort where they are at home, rather than kind of, you know, coming together and bootcamping or trying to take things to the next level. And I think the organization also deserves some blame for where the team finds itself currently, right? But that's the thing, it's always been talking point. Okay, TenZ, the ping that he has, the rest of the guys are in kind of different locations. Like, look, should they come together? Should they bootcamp for a couple of months, play against some good teams, and it will improve as a result with a good coaching staff around them? Because that's pretty much what 100 Thieves and well, TSM have tried to do, and it's worked out rather well. So I'll share this clip from Dapr. He doesn't really believe that, like, bootcamps could help, but he doesn't think that it's absolutely necessary to improve. But at the same time, like, what are they actually doing to improve outside of that?
It's all narratives, and like whatever the narrative, people will just like repeat. And then it's so funny because usually, like, for a long time, it was boot camps made teams worse, and being at apartments close together was like really good when we were winning, right? So that was a narrative. Everybody's like, yeah, that's the best. And now that someone's boot camping and playing well, and like we aren't doing well in apartments, it's like, oh yeah, boot camps is where it's at. And so you're just gonna go through cycles. And it's just funny. It's funny to me because I could easily see all the narratives just change and change, but then like either people are like new to the scene and they don't really like see the narratives change back and forth, but like it's so funny for me. It's personally so funny for me. Obviously, boot camps aren't useless. Don't get me wrong. Like, there's boot camps have their things, but like, are boot camps necessary? Like, I don't think they're the most necessary shit ever, dude. I don't. Pros that boot camp and go to facilities, a lot of them would have preferred to play at home. I guarantee you. I guarantee you. They just would never say it.
So this has, of course, been a big talking point in the last few weeks, TSM especially, because, of course, they played last night and had great success against 100 Thieves. But both of those teams, TSM, 100 Thieves, they kind of took the time to say, okay, look, TSM, we're going to bootcamp here in Texas, going to build a new squad, going to be all in the same location, and that's going to help us improve, as they have drastically, to be honest, and right now are clearly a better team than Sentinels in the current situation. 100 Thieves, I would put them in a very similar boat. They built pretty much an entirely new squad. They weren't looking great early on, but all they're in the facility at the same time with the coaching staff in attendance, like they improved drastically, and yes, they lost 2-0 to TSM and just a couple of days ago, but even before then they were looking really good. They took down the guards. They're still in a pretty good position to qualify here to the playoffs, which at Sentinels most certainly are not, right? So I did think interesting words really from Dapr. I do wonder what the rest of the team believes, but effectively saying that, like, look, yes, boot camps could be helpful in certain situations, but apparently that didn't used to be the meta, right? They used to think the boot camps actually weren't so useful. It was just kind of good being in apartments relatively close in vicinity to each other, as maybe Sentinels used to be when they're having success, but to me it just seems nowadays it's so much harder to be a dominant team in Valorant as it was before, and I do think they're going to have to take things significantly more seriously if they actually want to become the best team in the world again, because right now they're obviously nowhere even close to being the best team in North America, let alone in the world. Now, well, we've got to talk about the best team in North America and the world right now, and that being none other than OpTic Gaming. They played a crazy series last night against Cloud9. Cloud9 dominated Icebox, a map which is very rarely that OpTic get dominated on, because Yale on that map is actually pretty disgusting. But on the game 2 on Ascent, it's OpTic the bounce back. Game 3 Haven was absolutely phenomenal in this series, but yeah, Cloud9 of course were playing their first series with Curry in the team. Zeta decided to go, and well, he's of course left to T1. Curry comes in. Curry did really impress me this series. I thought he was great, and I was really impressed by him actually, and I do wonder whether in Zeta in certain situations, whether they would have been better. Of course, they've only had a few days to practice here with Curry, because the swap they made with Zeta going to T1, Curry going the other way, so with Zeta, maybe Cloud9 win this series. But OpTic, I think, were clearly still the stronger team regardless. They win game 2 Ascent to take it to a third on Haven, and this Haven was crazy. I mean, Crashies does this round to tie it up at 5-5, but then Cloud9 win a lot of rounds in a row on their final side of their defense. This is a pretty big one actually here from Vanity in the very next round to keep the hope alive that Cloud9 could potentially win this in 3, and it was looking rather good for them until OpTic on their, well, final defensive rounds really started to come up to life once again. At this point it was, 6-6. Ye gets some kind of nice timing right here to help close out one of these rounds, but yeah, then Cloud9 decided to put away a little bit, and honestly this matchup has been great so far in North America, of course, just because yeah, it's been all this talk really about who's the best team in North America. Cloud9 were certainly it for a time. OpTic became it, right? It was OpTic the guard Cloud9 that were considered number 1, number 2, number 3 after Masters, and of course with Cloud9's change, can they still be there? I still think they have the firepower to do so, and maybe yeah, I think, like, well, as Vanity says, he felt like despite the fact that they weren't going to make a change anyway if Zeta didn't want to leave, then he felt like they kind of reached their ceiling with Zeta anyway on the team. So as well as we see right here, OpTic start tying up the series, and all of a sudden they end up winning it right in the game at 3 in the end. Like, Curry does a good job to try and keep the dream alive here by getting 2 kills, but in the end FNS takes him down, wins the 1-on-1, and that's a 2-1 series victory for OpTic. So they move to 2-0. They're looking rather comfortable. Cloud9 of course in a very difficult situation to quickly adapt, but it's far from the end of the world for them. They're still sitting at 1-1, and I'm pretty sure even Dr. Disrespect here was at the OpTic game here to kind of see what was going on and see the victory as it did transpire. But as FNS says, we're washed, right? Fluke, yeah man. 2-1 versus Cloud9, well played, thank you for the games. Not sure really who was saying this, to be perfectly honest, because I think most people said, okay, OpTic actually a pretty good team, not really a fluke. It didn't really seem like a fluke to me when they won Masters, but yeah, maybe he's just kind of tongue-in-cheek having a good time, to be honest. Now this also from Ye, 2-1 versus Cloud9, started off slow, lost both pistols on the last map, but they played really well and it exploited our openings on our defense. All good though, we take it home. So good victory for them, of course. We'll look at the final series stats here in a second. Curry did impress me, no doubt, as Vanity says the following. But yeah, here we go, the final series stats like this. Ye, again, always can be relied upon to have a phenomenal series. To me, Leaf's stats here are just kind of absurd. He played 3 different agents across the 3 maps. Like, Ye's always on the chamber, as we've seen nowadays. But look at this, 10 first kills, 19 first deaths. Like, nobody else on Cloud9 was even getting in any first engagements at all. It was all Leaf, and he was losing a vast majority of them. So they've got to think about that, actually, because if this number was a little bit different, and they're pretty much always relying on him, is, not a bad thing when you've got a guy like Leaf on your team, but still, it doesn't always work out, as we saw in this series. The other series today was NRG versus XSET. This is an interesting one, really, because NRG, they've been on the up lately. I thought they might even be favourites in this series, but XSET, of course, like, they're still, like, a rock-solid team. They've got so many good, talented players on that lineup, and of course, course, there was a 10-0 map record that NRG had coming into this series, dominating the 4 games they needed to win in the kind of open qualifiers, beating TSM 2-0, but now falling to XSET in relatively comfortable fashion. Actually, there were some great rounds from Cryo and zyppan as well. Like, they just really came alive in this series. Game 1 binds, it goes their way, as does Game 2 here on the split in the end. Both close maps, to be honest, but I mean, zyppan was honestly different gravy towards the end to kind of hold down their defense to close out for XSET, right? So we'll see if XSET managed to come fourth again. I feel like right now it's probably looking like they won't be fourth in their group at least, but at fourth in the playoffs, is that still, well, an option that is on the table right now? But NRG, their first map loss actually with this Ethan lineup, so I guess maybe to a degree it might be weight off their shoulders actually, because sometimes when you've got a record to defend, you play a little bit different. You play that kind of not to lose instead of to win. It's like sometimes it's good actually to get your streak broken so they can kind of focus up and go once again. And I mean, yeah, we see one of the final rounds right here from Cryo Cells that well, just takes this kill on takes. Unfortunate, pal. You're holding this lineup. He's just going to absolutely body you. Maybe, yeah, maybe he blinked at the wrong time or something, but Chamber versus Chamber works out in XSET's favor this time, and that helps them close out the rest of the series as well. As Ethan says, GG 0-2, 1-1 in North American VCT. The final series stats look like this, just before we look at what the groups look like now going into the third week, which of course is coming up very soon in T's. Close of order fair. EU actually on the Fade right, so there's been a lot of Fade usage lately, or at least, well, people are trying to bring her into the meta. Seem to work out, at least in terms of raw statistics. But with zyppan and Cryo taking over certain situations, I'm sure questions will be raised actually about Tex, right? Because kind of this team, the question was when Ethan came in, should Android have been gone or should Tex have been gone? And Tex took over in their qualifier, but since then hasn't looked so good. And on the Chamber, you've got to probably be dropping better numbers than this. These are the groups as they stand right now. So XSET now 2-0. Group A is really tough to call. TSM, 100T, NRG, Ghost Gaming, all at 1-1. Group B is a slightly different story. LG and OpTic, they're kind of opening themselves up a gap at the top, 2-0. Cloud9 Evil Genius is 1-1. Sentinels, FaZe 0-2. And of course, Sentinels still have to play Cloud9, OpTic, and FaZe Clan if they want to make it through, which is going to be far from easy. And just to finish out with this, the top 5 players from week 2 of the stage are Pro2, Corey, Nismo, Yay, of course, in that series last night, and Joel Gamer as well definitely deserves a lot of credit in their victory up against Sentinels just the other day. But very much intrigued to your thoughts and all this stuff in the comment section below. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy it, hit on the like button, tell us your YouTube gods, this is a good video, and also thank you to it as well, and upgrade the competitive Valorant community. Thank you for watching as always, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you next time.